Hi guys, Josh Turnbull here, and this is the final whistle.
Welcome back to the latest episode of Rugby Connection presents The Final Whistle. Now, this week's guest might have started in Scarlets for his rugby career, but he's known for being a Blue. He's got over 150 appearances for Cardiff, with 13 caps for Wales. Absolute mountain of a man, Josh Turnbull. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. How are we getting on?
No worries, good to catch up. Yeah, I'm not too bad at the moment. I've got a bit of an injury, so it's touch and go whether I'll play again this season. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster one for sure. So it's just a case of seeing where we are in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed you make a nice speedy recovery.
Cheers, mate.
What is the injury, if you don't mind telling everyone?
I've just got a little bit of a calf strain, so I don't pick up soft tissue injuries at all, and it's I think Di jinxed me a couple of weeks ago when we'd come back from South Africa. We played Glasgow, we'd beaten them, and I was a bit banged up the following week, and then so we were playing the Scarlets, obviously my old team, busting to play, but I was pretty beaten up, and he said, look, take a week off, rest the body up. I can't afford to lose you for a couple of weeks. 4 to 6 weeks, and I was like, okay. And he goes, don't get emotional with me now because it's the Scarlets. I was like, okay, I'll take it for this week. And he goes, you rip it next week then. And then got through the following week, ready to play Scarlets in the second game. And I pulled my calf in the warm-up. Literally about 30 seconds. Well, no, but probably about 3 minutes before we were due to go back into the change rooms. And I said to the physio, I think my calf's gone. So we went inside, we tested it. And then he goes, yeah, I'm going to have to make a call. You can't play here. And so Will Boyd, another ex-Scarlet, he just gives him the jersey and goes, oh, you're starting 8. And Boyd's like, what? He's like, 30 seconds before kickoff. Boyd just rips in like he does. And so I went for a scan, and I had on the following Monday, and I had a tear in my calf. So it's about a 6-week injury. The following Monday, then I saw Di and I said, you jinxed me. You jinxed me 2 weeks ago. But nah, it's we're 4 weeks now post that game, so a couple more weeks. I may hit the last game against Benetton, depending on how the next 10 days or so go.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Like I said, it'd be nice to see you get a nice run out before the end of the season. But we're going to run it all the way back now. What actually got you into rugby in the first place, Josh?
Look, I started when I was a youngster. I started when I was about 9 or 10. I think it was just the physicality of it, and I had 2 younger brothers, and we'd always just be playing 2v1s in the garden, and just having a good old crack at it. And all 3 of us played for the same club growing up. And look, my parents didn't come from a rugby background or anything. They're both English as well, grown up in Wales, so it was quite an interesting one. And I just from the first time I just fell in love with the game, really, from that age. And I started at a club called Newcastle Emlyn, and I just went all the way through their system then, all the way through their junior system, the youth team, and then I played 1 game for the senior team. And there's been some journeys along the way. So it's been a real good journey along the way.
Yeah, it definitely has. I was just going to say, you have been capped by Wales. You have won the Challenge Cup with Cardiff. If we could snap our fingers like Thanos and erase one from history, what would you pick? What would you sacrifice?
My Welsh caps or the Challenge Cup win?
Yes.
Oh, that's brutal, that is.
I know. We're like catching them off guard here.
Like, I think as a boy, you growing up, all you ever want to do is you want to play for Wales. So, I'd represent the 3.5 million people in this country. Ever since I was a school kid, and I missed out, like Wales 16s cap. I played for the A team instead. The following year I played 18s, and it probably clicked then that I could probably take this on as a this is something I could do professionally as a job. And I think I'd have to say I'd sacrifice the Challenge Cup, I think. But wow, that's another question, because we worked so hard for that trophy as well.
I know.
We
No, I
played
know.
a 3-year journey. I'll have a think of that while we keep going on this podcast.
Personally, I'd prefer you sacrifice the Challenge Cup because you put Edinburgh out in the quarters, so we can amend that.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we were actually all meant to, me and the rest of the hosts were actually meant to reunite for the Edinburgh Cardiff game in January, but it was still very up in arms where if you could go or not, and they said nope. So who knows? We could have actually met already, but wasn't meant to be.
No, that was a pretty tough day for us as well. We've been on the back of like a 5-week break, I think, and some of us hadn't played any rugby, and it's not ideal when you go to somewhere like Edinburgh anyway, because they're a real tough, uncompromising team to play against. But you know, coming off the back of COVID and things like that, it was pretty tough going.
Yeah. Since you mentioned COVID, obviously your last cap for Wales was during the summer, which was very some can go, some can't. You can't really go and interact with fans. How hard was it as a family man being in the bubble in preparation for the games?
Yeah, it's been tough the last couple of years. I haven't been involved in all of those campaigns, but it was pretty tough during that summer campaign. I was only away for, I think it was 4 weeks in the end. But you know, some of those boys who've been involved in the Six Nations campaigns have done 6 weeks on the bounce, 8 weeks on the bounce, and you know, some players, you know, there's only say 1 or 2 through each campaign have ended up getting COVID, but they've been really strict on when you can go home, when you can see your family. Generally, it's been after a game, and they'll give you a day to go home. But the first 4 weeks, it was literally you're in camp and you're not going home. So there's a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of time. You end up with a lot of spare time as well, because you don't train every hour of the day. But you've got to find things that, you know, to be fair, the entertainment committee and the social boys, they really step up in those few weeks and really make a difference, really. Yeah,
I mean, thank God, we have got such a technological world now, because I couldn't imagine having this pandemic 20, 30 years ago.
No, you know, I think it's actually showed now as well that you know, people are obviously working from home now. People are obviously using the technology more and more every day, and it just shows that you can do it as well. But I'm not sure how we would have coped 30 years ago. Been pretty brutal.
Probably not great. Just the drinking would have been cheaper though.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're quite versatile in the second row and the back row for the forwards. Do you have any preference of what you actually prefer playing?
It's quite a funny one, actually, because now I just want to be on the field. It's, you know, I'm not fussed what numbers on my jersey. I'd rather just be on the field playing and giving everything for the boys, and giving leading the way, basically. There was a time probably when, you know, I was pretty set on wanting to play in one position, and that probably would have been blindside. You know, I think being versatile, having many strings to your bow, it only adds to your opportunities. And you know, to be fair, that especially in the last couple of years, the way the game's going, you find more and more hybrid back row players playing in the second row. You know, you have to look at people like Cameron Waukee now is doing it for France. Before that, they had Bernard Leroux doing it for them. You know, Courtney Laws does it for England. Maritoje's done it. Seb Davis is doing it now for Wales, and Cardiff. You know, I think James Ratty's another one at Cardiff who can do it. You know, so there's more and more players. Rob Harley at Glasgow can do it. So I think they're invaluable to a squad because of how much work you can do. It's basically playing a back row in the second row, and you know, defense coaches love that, attack coaches love that as well. So it's music to their ears when they get the opportunity to do it. Yeah,
that's fair enough. Just for fun, because you cover so many positions, we'll give you all options. Who's your dream past and present second row partner? And same for the back row. Who's going in the back row with you, past and present? You can pick 2 back rows, past and 2 present if you want.
So
One of each
if
in
I was
second.
going, if I was going past, I've played against him. I would have loved to have played with him. Is Victor Matfield
Okay. Oh,
in the Boyle
what a
House.
unit.
And then I think, let's have a think here. Present. Who would I like to have played with in the row? Who's presently? Well, I think you just got to go and pick someone like Ebenezer, who just monsters people, doesn't he?
Two big, massive South Africans, past and
Yeah.
present. There you go.
Back row. As a kid growing up, I always wanted to be like Schalkberger. Fortunate enough to play against him, so I'd pick him in my back row as a past, and I'd probably go Jerry Collins as well.
Nice. I rate that.
Currently, current Hamish Watson's a bit of a boy. I quite like. I'm a big fan of his. The amount of groundwork he gets through. Big explosive carry as well. So I put him at open side, and then number 8. What did I put number 8 then? I tell you what, I'm going to go with James Ratty, because I think he's just been immense this year for Cardiff.
That's
He's
fair.
Of course.
I thought you were going to name another South African there, the way it was going there. But I mean, they are big physical lads, and who wouldn't want that in the pack?
Yeah, I think the game has definitely changed since I started. Like you look at Ratty has probably gone from back row to second row, moved back to back row, and he scored a try against Ulster this year where he picked off the back of the scrum, run through 7 and 8, dragged the 10 across the try line, and with another 2 boys on his back. So just how explosive he is. And when he played the Ospreys the other week, he ran straight through Alan Wynne and Thomas Francis, 2 internationals. Just shows how explosive he is. So, big fan of him at the moment. He's doing real well.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. What's the biggest, because you've said that game has changed since you started playing, what's the biggest change for you that you've noticed?
Probably the collisions, how big the collisions are. It's relentless in terms of, like, you get up, you make one collision, you're making another one within the minute probably, maybe even less than that, and just how much force is involved in those collisions as well.
Yeah,
that's if I play on a Friday night, I'm not walking properly till Monday. Tuesday.
That's fair.
And I kind of, some of the boys go, "How do you do it?" And I take myself to well every time. I'd like to think I do it anyway. But I think over the last few years, I've definitely learned how to look after my body a lot better, and respect the fact you have to recover after games, otherwise you're not going to be able to back up week after week after week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was my biggest, because it's my first senior season. I had a big gap. I got injured playing youth rugby, so took some time off, came back, and my first senior game, and I got hit, and I was like, oh, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Just big lads, they're just all grown men now, isn't it? It's not boys you're playing against. It's just getting fed to the wolves. It feels like almost.
Nice. It is changed massively, and I also think the speed of the game, how quick the game is played now, and the fact that the South Africans have come into the URC is definitely pinpointed the difference, I think, between the Southern Hemisphere teams and the Northern Hemisphere teams, and how different the game is played, and how quick they are, and how quick they play it.
You've just came back from South Africa. How was your whole experience? Because obviously this is very new to everyone.
So the last 3 years has been spot on. Really enjoyed going over there, even when we were playing the Cheetahs and the Kings. This year was a bit of a shock. Obviously, we got stuck out there in the first time we travelled out there. with the COVID outbreak that happened in the UK, and then we got stuck in South Africa, and then we got stuck in Gatwick, just outside of Gatwick. It was an absolute nightmare. You had two boys. It was like, right, we're on a plane today. No, we're not on a plane today. We're on a plane today. No, we're not on a plane today. So this went on for about 5 days. And then two of the boys got so head gone. On the last day, I think me and two of the other senior boys had gone a Zoom call early doors. And they basically said, no, we're not flying today, because the time to fly, we would have had to been in the airport by, say, 2 o'clock in the morning for us to fly at 4. But in South Africa at the time, there was a quarantine. So not quarantine. There was a you basically weren't allowed out of the hotel between, say, 11 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's very helpful, that.
So they were trying to arrange these flights, and they were like, well, you have to be in the airport by 2 o'clock. And it's like, well, that's not happening. So we're stuck. We get stuck another day. Two of the boys, I'm not going to name names, jump in a taxi and go straight to the airport that morning, buy their own tickets to fly home. But when they realized that they've actually got to fill in these locator forms and these hotel quarantine period, so they couldn't get past the hotel quarantine period because they needed a booking number. And the team manager wouldn't give it to him. He's like, you don't have them, so you can't book anything. You're stuck. You're going to be stuck in an airport in London. So these two boys ended up coming back to the hotel, and we actually ended up going the next day, I think. But I think there was quite a lot of apprehension going back a second time. There was quite a few sketchy boys about going back. Did not want to go. But it was actually, apart from the results, the trip wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because apparently the altitude is like a big issue, and I don't know how players prep for that. I know that you see it, like videos of it, like the masks, the bikes, but
we did it a little bit different this time. Rather than going to stay at altitude, we flew up the night before and got in. We actually got in quite late, so we didn't actually have any time to acclimatize to the altitude or anything. And then we just, the game at altitude probably was our best game over there. We actually really stuck it in, and I think the yellow card came just as we were scoring a try. So if that hadn't happened, I think we would have beaten the Lions. But it wasn't to be. But then the heat the following week in Cape Town, like, that blew the socks off the boys that day. I don't think anyone had played in, I played in heat against Argentina in the summer in the stadium when I think it was like 42 degrees on the pitch side. It was absolutely melting. But some of the boys never played in heat like that. They were sitting on the bench and they were sweating their lids off.
Oh no, that doesn't sound fun at all.
So, you go from one extreme of high altitude and heat to even hotter day on the following Saturday then, and it's just, to be fair, they obviously used to, aren't they, over there?
So you prefer it close to the water level when it's freezing cold when it's raining?
Yeah, I don't mind going to Glasgow, Edinburgh, Connaught, or Dublin when it's literally snowing. I don't mind that, but when it's boiling hot.
I feel like I'd be different. I really love the heat. I don't cope when it's cold. I'm like the worst Scottish person ever.
I thought you'd be used to it.
I'm used to it. It just doesn't sit with me. Like, my skin gets itchy because I'm asthmatic. My breathing's all to shit, and I'm like, I need to move. I need to go to a hot country.
There is days when, like, you play on a really cold day, and it can catch you in the lungs as well, mine. But I think I prefer it to be a little bit cooler, dry. That's my ideal playing situation. Really.
That's fair. I think the perfect situation for me is sun splitting the trees, but that nice little cool breeze that comes through. I think I'd play that any day of the week, but not torrential rain and.
We've done it all. We've played it all.
Done it all. Just a fun question. Well, it's kind of fun. I don't think it has, but I want to see a professional's perspective. Has the game gone soft?
I know I got a red card at the beginning of last season.
Yeah.
And I probably set the kind of straight after that, there was a bucket full of red cards for collisions. Like mine wasn't intentional. But what I did was I didn't lower my height or anything, and I just stood square, and we just both collided, and his head was in my shoulder, went into his head.
Yeah.
I think they've got to take into the context of what's happening around the players, because like I said earlier, the game is moving so quickly now. Everything happens, you've got split seconds to react, and you're not always going to be able to change the direction you go in. I recently saw that was it Leicester Harlequins? There was a reversed penalty because one of the Harlequins boys pushed another player, his own player, with the ball into the oncoming tackle. So that obviously speeds everything up, and he couldn't react. So I think Marla had a face full of shoulder because his mate had pushed him into the contact. So, to be fair, in that game, they took everything into context. But it's a couple of years ago, it was all the high. It wasn't necessarily high shots. It was the people who were jumping for the ball, and someone couldn't react in time to stop himself taking that person's legs out in the air. Now you're probably seeing less and less of them because people are either pulling out earlier or they're reacting better.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say the game's gone soft in that respect. I think, generally if someone's laid flat out cold because they've been smashed in the face and someone's out as they'd go back and look at it. Maybe it's just now that because you've got TMO and they're watching the game 5 seconds behind, that they get to see these things.
Yeah.
And then they'll send a message down like TMO check, and then the ref will stop play, obviously. But if you just looked at some of the collisions that are happening in, you get one guy running into 2 blokes these days, so you're naturally going to get big collisions anyway. So I don't think the game's gone soft. If anything, it's probably a little bit tougher, if anything. But I think it's the older generation who are saying the game's gone soft because back in their day, it was pushed that you'd go around rucking people, stamping on people, shoulder barging people. You got away with it because you didn't have a TMO.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, but the generation of the game has changed. They're trying to make it cleaner without these cheap shots.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, like you said about like versatility players, like players are bigger, stronger, quicker nowadays as well. It's not like you look like 30 years ago. There's a prop, and it looks like like your local butcher. Whereas now they're all absolutely massive, shredded, like 0% like body fat. They're all like chiseled out.
And the props are probably for me the hardest ones to tackle because it's like barrels. They're not slow either. They run like Reece Carey now with Cardiff. No one's tackling. The guy's 130k and he's quick across 10 meters.
Yeah.
So like, you get 2 guys running each other like that, you're gonna have a massive collision.
Yeah.
Someone's coming off second best.
That's it. That's all it is. That's fair enough. Who's your actual toughest opponent to play against? Who's like the one player that you've came across, even just this season, that you've came across someone you're like, no thanks?
I tell you, there was one guy who used to be at Worcester. I think he went to Edinburgh after that. Anton Bresler. He's in Racing now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in Racing. Yeah.
He was just relentless. Like Duracell batteries go all day, just keep smashing people, and it's just like, mate, give it a break, will you? I'm like 70th minute into a game, and he's just coming in with all that every time. So, fair play to him. He was a pretty tough opponent I played against. Who I played against recently, I tell you, was pretty tough. Was that Evan Roos plays for Stormers?
Yeah, Evan Roos. Yeah.
Oh. He's a pretty hefty fellow on a rugby field as well. He can put it about.
Do you ever do you ever hit someone that's a lot bigger than you? And like, even though like the game adrenaline and all that, so you wouldn't feel it. Do you ever like take a second, like almost out of body experience, but holy shit, like I've just put him on his arse.
Um, I don't know about that, but there's been some like I had some hefty collisions in like over my time, and someone probably pulled up afterwards and gone, "Geez, you put that hell of a shot in there." And then you think about it, you go, watch it back, and you're like, that is some decent shot, mine. But I've definitely had it on the receiving end of it. Definitely received a couple and gone, "Wow, that's the last thing I needed." But you know, I guess that's why you live and play the game, because you know it's part and parcel of it. You know,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
absolutely. I mean, earlier on you mentioned some famous clubs like Edinburgh, Glasgow, Racing, and all that. What's the best venue you've ever played at? Can't say Cardiff Arms or Principality. That's cheating.
Like, 'cause you know they're the best.
I'll give you Principality. I do like Principality. I've never been to Cardiff Arms, so I can't judge.
Cardiff Arms on a Friday night, when it's a full stadium, is unbelievable. I gotta say, it's one to check out. So if we're, you know, it's worth being there for a Friday night game, or a Saturday afternoon, European game. Those two are very good experiences. Where have I played? I think, you know, Ravenhill is up there as a it's always packed. Every time you go there, it's always packed. And even same with no, what's the one in Dublin where they Leinster play?
Oh, the RDS.
Yes, it's always those two stadiums always packed. Yeah, well, Harlequins is pretty good. To be fair, the Stoop. Played in front of a full stadium in Murrayfield, when I did my debut for Wales. That was pretty decent as well.
Yeah, Murrayfield's the best. There you go.
Yeah, no, there's like the Cake Tin in Wellington.
Yeah.
Very good stadium. Yeah, experienced a couple of good ones actually, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't really comment on Edinburgh's new one, because we've only played there, and they had all their, there must have been all their academy players, all their senior players who weren't playing, sitting in the back of the stand, and they were making more noise than what you get if you're playing in Murrayfield against Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So
I'm so happy that we got the new stadium.
Yeah.
Because even though you can't even have 8,000 there, because I was at the Ulster game last week and it was a sellout and it was like 7,784, something like that. But it feels like 20,000. Like when you hear it, it's loud, it's thunder. But when you look at Murrayfield, like when Sky Sports used to do the Pro 12,
yeah,
and it come up attendance 3,200, and I'm like, at Murrayfield, like that's crickets. You won't hear it.
It's like one man has a dog in the stand.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I am so happy that Edinburgh's finally got their own stadium. It gets decent crowds every week. Hopefully next time Cardiff are playing, there is crowds, because I think you were like the last game for Edinburgh to play at home before crowds were allowed back in. So
yes, that I think the crowds, like we've made a big thing about the Cardiff crowd this year. They make a hell of a difference when they're on point. And you know, to be fair, they've been, you know, even when we put out two pretty much second string teams against, or even third string teams against Toulouse and Harlequins, they made plenty of noise and they really supported the boys. And they've stuck through us with this year, to be fair. And we've had some hammerings. We've been on the back end of some real hammerings. And so if anyone listens, thanks for that, Cardiff fans.
Fair enough. I mean, you've not been as hammered as nearly as bad as Bath. Sorry, Bath fan. Sorry.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal to watch. I watched some of that the other day, and yeah, that's, well, saying that when you lose 50 points to the Scarlets, and they haven't been going all that well this year either, so that was pretty tough to take. 40 points against Ulster, 40 points against Edinburgh.
I like that one. Sorry.
40 points against Stormers. Yeah, so we've been on the receiving end of a few hammerings this year.
I mean, Cardiff always seem to bounce back. I always see, like, even when you mentioned the Toulouse game, it was like a third string, but that wasn't through choice. That was because of COVID.
Yeah.
And yet you still gave them a bloody good game.
I think for the first 60 minutes, there was so much adrenaline, so much, all those young boys and boys coming in who were playing in the Welsh Premiership, they all wanted to prove a point. And to be fair, they didn't care. They didn't give a shit about Toulouse. They just ripped in. And that was the best thing. These guys are like 100 cap internationals or like 50 cap All Blacks. And they didn't care one bit who was in the jersey, whose name was on the back of the jersey. They just ripped in. They didn't and I think some credit's got to go to TRT Thomas, Reece Thomas and Richie Reece, who drove that group that week and those 2 weeks. And they just said, look, boys, you've got nothing to lose. Just go and rip into him. And but there was a few DuPont's moments of magic causes a few problems, didn't it? So
just a tale of old now, isn't it? You just mention his name and everyone's like, yeah, cool, because he just does it to everyone, so it's not even news anymore.
He's pretty much like, you're probably giving yourself, if you got him in your team, you reckon you're giving yourself 10 points head start.
Oh, easy.
Because he's just he sometimes you won't even see him in the game. Next thing, bang, he's gone. He's done something, and then before you know, he's done 2 or 3 things, and it's like X-factor moments, and you're like, and then when he's doing that, the other guys around him think, oh, I can do that as well, and they all start playing like Harlem Globetrotters, and they turn it on, and basically what France did in the Six Nations.
Pretty much. The bit that catches me off with DuPont is obviously he's a smaller, like height-wise, he's a bit smaller because he's a scrum half, but he's so strong. Like, you see him just shrug off everyone. I'm like, nah, what are you doing? Like, what's your workout routine?
Yeah, you can tell me if you know, you can tell me.
I don't speak French, but I'll try and find out for you.
I guess he's just got a low center of gravity, super strong, short arms, strong hips and thighs, and just he's powerful in the contact, isn't he? So and then what helps is he's quick. So
yeah, fair enough. Is there any player that you've played with or against and you just kind of sit back for a minute and go, unreal, like just unreal?
That's another tough question. I think when I was first coming through, like, I used to watch Regan King when the backs were doing their unit sessions. You think, how the hell has he just done that? Jordan Williams, when he was at the Scarlets, he was an unbelievable. I coached him when he was in Scarlets under 18s. I was only about 23, 24 at the time, and he was coming through. And I said to a couple of people, "This kid's got it." Kicks off left and right foot easily off the tee as well, and he had some unbelievable skills. He'd throw little backdoors every session without failure. There's like Ellis Jenkins has got excellent handling skills for back or forward. Like, he's like a back. Thomas Williams is like, I think his basketball skills coming through. I just think that I think I read something not so long ago that the more players professionally make it in a sport if they played multitude of sports at a high level when they're a kid.
Oh.
So, like, I think I was reading about Harry Maguire was very good at football, rugby and something else, and he all played them at a very quite high standard at school level. And they've done a study since, and it said that guys who tend to play a multitude of sports at a high level end up making it in one of them.
No, I'm not making it then. I was rugby through. that was that. So
yeah, no,
I'll just check time reviewing them.
So, like, there's Like, I think tip brick is another one. Skills like a back, pace like a back, hits like a forward. He can carry like a forward as well. So, he's got pretty much an all-round game, isn't he?
Yeah,
Very good rugby player.
Just a cheat code, isn't he?
Yeah, you could say that.
What's the best game you've ever attended? Not playing, just you've gone to go and see it.
I went to watch. I was a youngster, so I was probably about 12 or 13. I went to watch the All Blacks against Wales in the stadium. Yeah, I was probably around 12, 13-ish. And just watching the All Blacks then, and they put 40 on Wales, but just to be able to watch it, 2 seats from the pitch side and in the stadium, that one. Or I know I was part of the squad, but when Wales won the Grand Slam in 2019,
yeah,
I was watching the last game against, who do we play?
Ireland, I think.
Say again?
I think it was Ireland, yeah, because Hadley Park's come very early on, did he not?
Yeah, so I was in the stand watching that game as well, as part of the wider squad.
Yeah.
And Gats was like, we're going to win the Grand Slam. We're going to win the Grand Slam. He said it every week, all the way through the Six Nations to the squad. And once you start winning a couple, once you won the first 2, you get a third one on the way, you're thinking, right, this is on now. And to watch the boys do that was, pretty special as well.
Fair enough.
You saw the belief grow in the squad throughout the tournament as the tournament went on. The belief grew, and that was pretty special. Yeah.
It does sounds like a generally great environment as well.
Oh, look, last year hadn't been involved for a number of seasons, and to get back in there, obviously things have changed from Gatland era to the PVAC era, but a lot of the staff was still the same. I think you're very privileged to go and play international rugby, and you've got to, when you go there, you understand you represent 3.5 million people, and there's no better opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can't argue with that. Does being Cardiff captain change how you are as a person, or does it not change you much?
So I don't know. I still live down in the Scarlets region.
Oh,
so
shocking.
I never wanted to move to Cardiff. I had 2 girls when I was 22 and 24, 5. So I was quite young in that respect, but I never really wanted to move. I always wanted to stay where I was. Because where I was living just outside Llanelli, my parents lived 45 minutes the other way, close west, and Cardiff's 45 minutes east. So it's pretty neutral for me. I get the best of both. I can sit in the car and switch off on the way home from training. So and then obviously when I joined Cardiff, the girls had already started school by then, so didn't want to uproot them and move them away, and the wife was settled. So I think having that switch off time in the car on the way home from training is real beneficial for me anyway. So but I wouldn't say being Cardiff captain makes me change the person I am or anything I do. It's just an extra little piece of my job that I've got to do, I guess. It's just
it just means you get to mouth off at the refs.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice for young players trying to break through currently?
Yeah, just work hard. Work hard and care about what you're doing.
That's
if I could
fair.
swear, I'd say something else, but
You can swear.
I'd say give a fuck. Just give a
Nice.
fuck about people around you. Give a fuck about what you're doing, and just work hard. Because, like, I wasn't the most talented rugby player when I was a kid growing up, but I cared immensely about it, and I cared about getting better. And I think ultimately that's helped get me where I am at, today. And yeah, like just graft, just real hard graft. It doesn't come
Yeah,
easy. Nothing's given to it.
that's it. That's it. Well said. Is there any aims? I was going to say for the rest of the season, but there's not very long left of the season. So is there any aims you'd like to still achieve just in your career in general?
Look, I've got a couple of little targets. I'd like to hit 200 games for Cardiff, which is, it's probably quite doable over the next couple of years. I'm on 169 now, I think. So, I'm 31 more games, fingers crossed. And then the other one would be trying to hit Muldoon's record in the league appearances. I think he's on like 254, something like that. So, and I'm close to 220. If I could do that, if I could get close to that, then, they'd be nice to tick those two off. Like, I think I've, maybe playing for Wales, as that ship has now sailed. There's so many youngsters coming through, so many good players playing as well. But I'd never retire from international duty. If they wanted me, I'm there ready. So
I like that. I'll really rate that.
I'm just trying to think. Like, obviously, would love to win, another trophy with the Cardiff boys, because they are. There's a great bunch of boys there. I know we're probably in a little bit of a transitional phase at the moment with Dye coming in and this season really putting a stamp on things, but I think it's for the better. I think also that once we start to hit our strides and we because we can do it. We've shown this year we can do it. We've beaten Glasgow, we've beaten Leinster at home, so we've proven that we can do it. And we just got to be more consistent with doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously, Dye's been there. He's done that. He's won trophies. So I don't see why it can't. And like you said, you've got a great variety of players and like top class talent. So who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, I think like the other thing is those boys are not youngsters anymore either.
Yeah.
They were youngsters a couple of years ago, and one thing, the biggest things I've realised as you get older, cup finals come few and far between. So every time you get an opportunity, you've got to make the most of them. And even as a youngster, you don't play in many cup finals. So every time you do, you've got to make the most of them. And you've got to. I think the other thing is you've got to strive to try and get to hit those targets every year if you want to get better.
Yeah, of course. Last little bit of the show. I call it quick fire questions. It's not like rapid. It's just more to get to know Josh Turnbull. So, favorite pizza topping?
Favorite piece of what? Sorry.
Favorite pizza topping?
Pizza topping. I'm partial to ham and pineapple. I like that.
No. I was going to ask, does pineapple belong on pizza? But evidently, yes, it does in your household.
Yeah, it does. Well, it does for me anyway.
No, I've lost respect for you now. Favorite beer after a game?
A nice cold Peroni.
Oh, good choice. I like that. I rate
Or
that.
Beer Moretti.
I've still not had one of them. I've still never tried a Moretti, but I will.
Get one of them.
Favorite music genre?
You'll probably hate me for this as well, but I've got a thing for trance, like Armin van Buuren and well, no, I'm saying that. I got into it when I was a bit of a youngster. A couple of the boys, they all had like decks and stuff, and they'd all play hard house and trance, and I got into it then. Probably then and I listen to that quite often when I'm in the gym. But then also I like the Killers. I like Stereophonics. So, you know, I listen to Michael Jackson. I'll listen to everything and anything. Like, I go in the kitchen and the wife's got Western music on. So, you know, I'm partial to a bit of everything. But to get me in the zone for a game is probably a bit of trance, a bit of Armin van Buuren.
Any specifics? Actually, what's your favourite song, just in general? Doesn't have to be for a game.
Oh, Killers, Can't Stop.
Good. Favourite film?
Oh, favourite film? Twin Town. So it's not a Welsh film, but it was set in Wales.
Ah, right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, watch it. It's very funny.
I'll try and get around to it. Sunrise or sunset?
Oh, after seeing the sunset in Ibiza, I'll say sunset. Yeah,
Nice, and I could vouch for that as well. Ibiza sunset is just very nice. It's orange. It hits the water. Beautiful.
Spot on.
Winning try or winning the turnover to give your team the win. Either way, you're going to be the hero.
I've done both, so but I felt after doing the try save and tackle, that was I love that more. I'll take that try save and tackle.
I like how you did a brag there as well without. Favorite dessert?
Chocolate trifle.
Ideal holiday location?
I've been to Cuba, and you know I really enjoyed it there, so I'd love to go back actually.
Fair enough. If you could sign for any team in the world, who would it be and why? You could pick Cardiff if you want to be a proper loyal, but like the wife's not working, the kids are out of school, money's not an obligation.
Trying to think now. Where would I want to go and play? Who would I want to play for? Like I used to be a bit of a fan of Leicester Tigers when I was growing up. They were in their pomp, and they were, you know, I wanted to, you know, I'd probably, let's say Leicester Tigers, and they're doing well now as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I like that, and it's not too far away from home.
I think like the way they've turned things around this year as well. You know, they've obviously got some very good coaches there as well, and they've got a very good bunch of boys who've bought into what Steve Borthwick wants to do.
Yeah, can't argue with that. And last question: Scarlets or Cardiff?
Cardiff.
Good. Just testing. That's twice I've done that on the bounce now with our guests. I'm just trying to catch them off. So, yeah, but honestly, thank you for this. This has been an absolute blast.
No worries.
Hopefully, like I said at the start of the episode, hopefully we get to see you get a run out against, I think it's Benetton. You said was the last game for you.
Yeah, we got Zebra this week, the Dragons the week after, and Benetton the week after that. So, I'd like to make Dragons, but I'm more hopeful of making Zebra. Benetton.
Go for both. Why not? Go for it.
Don't think my calf's like a chalk ice at the moment. I don't think I'll make it.
That's fair. But this has been the final whistle with Josh Turnbull, and we will see you next time.